biggest intrusion of privacy. I think, you know, the whole notion of Big Brother is watching is that's the sort of like the peak of the mountain.
Right.
It's quite a phrase.
Terrorism attacks will happen regardless of whether you have an identity card or not.
You give the same sort of details as you do for an ID card. It's open an email account, so it's really nothing to worry about.
Including biometric scanning?
There's nothing wrong with biometric scanning either.
As long as you've got nothing to hide, then there's nothing wrong with carrying an extra bit of identification.
Not a big fan. A bit of a where does it end?
Would you like to carry an ID card?
Yes, I would.
Really? And why would you like to carry an
I
ID
would
card?
like to carry an ID card because they are a valuable tool for checks and balances against people.
I don't want a government to have my health information, my work information, the information to where I lived, without any watchdog and without any checks and balances.
Unnecessary as well. We really have driver's licenses and other forms of ID. Like, if policemen say wanted to find out something about someone, they could ask them at a later time for it. I just think it's just kind of unnecessary cost as well.
But in theory, from what I understand, it would be a decent security measure. I think it will provide the right people the right details, but also access for the individual user. However, until that system is fully implemented, there's likely to be quite a lot of chaos, and so there's going to be, no one will be really sure on how it's really going to work, let alone the cost, of course, of to set up the whole system. I understand it's into the billions of pounds that the taxpayer will need to pay.
To be honest, there is no real need.
I don't think that the ID cards are necessarily an invasion of privacy, but what I do think is that they're just pointless for the cost that they have.
Hey, my name is Eve, and I think the ID card system is ridiculous. Did you know you're more likely to be killed by your garden furniture than by a terrorist this year? It just seems like we've done some really bad risk assessment. If you think about it, you're putting so much power in the wrong hands. Fair enough, security is a problem, but I think you should be looking to address the long-term problems rather than trying to... It's silly. Just agree with me, this is ridiculous, huge invasion of privacy, and again, power in the most developed hands in the West. Doesn't this seem like a bit circuitous to you? It does to me, anyway.
I find the whole concept a little bit scary, actually. I find that the fact that the government is going to have so much information just on every single person in the entire country, it's quite a terrifying factor.
Go. Go.
It's not really about conspiracy, it's more fear of cock-up, and I think that the government's record when people's driving licence information turns up in Bermuda is just farcical. Now, if there's sensitive information, as there's bound to be, on people's bank accounts, people's medical documents potentially, all their insurance details, if that suddenly appears somewhere, you know, that's a serious case of identity theft. Much worse than we have at the moment, where the information isn't readily available to be stolen from one place.
What if the government says, well, obviously we're aware of that and we're going to tighten it up so that, you know, only the right people have access? Do you think that's unrealistic and there is going to be an error margin and it's going to happen, or do you think if the government decides to do ID cards they will tighten up and they'll solve that problem?
I think that's taking an unnecessary risk. As I say, the government's just been proved time and time again. Spies are leaving laptops in trains on pubs in the middle of London. I mean, this is not a government, bless them, that I want to trust with all my sensitive data.